Hi everyone, how are we all doing? Welcome to this video. I don't know, for a lot of you, yes, I believe that one day it's going to be your very first time watching this. This is Women in Leadership. I am Oluchi Iseko, and we are unraveling this line of thought where we're talking about having to give. You need to have to give. You must have something to give. That's the general line of thought. We're taking it back to the Bible, and we are going to see what you were supposed to do when you have the multitude. So, by way of definition, this beautiful evening right now here, this beautiful evening, by way of definition, I think I want us to unpack what the multitude means to you, depending on who you are. Okay? The multitude is a challenge. It presents itself as a challenge or task that is peculiar to you. One task, one challenge right in front of you, but will not go away. That seems to follow you, that seems to have your name on this particular challenge. That you have tried to ignore, tried to avoid, but it's still there. I'm going to, buttress it. So it's something that feels like it's your responsibility. It's a source of concern to you. A problem that even though other people feel comfortable walking past, it seems to call your name. That is your multitude. And today I want us to unpack the whole concept of having to give to your multitude, feeding your crowd, taking care of the multitude that is yours. And this is carved from the story of Jesus trying to feed the 5,000, particularly from Mark's rendition, from Mark's synoptic gospel of Jesus trying to feed the 5,000. That is where we are basing this from, and that is where we are drawing our life lessons for everyday life as a woman in leadership. So when your multitude comes and you are able to identify that this thing seems like it's following you, this thing seems like it keeps repeating itself. Your multitude can be a repetitive pattern, something that happens. Let me tell you something. When I was in school several years ago, it came to a time where I was supposed to be, the head of a group or a union, something like that we're doing in school. In fact, let me tell you, it was the head of my fellowship. Okay, I was already working in some capacity, but then just before the elections would happen, something funny happened. Yeah, something funny that kind of teetered on my reputation. Okay, and I'm not saying that is repetitive, but anytime something like that starts to happen again, I find myself a bit too protective of my reputation, and sometimes it's hindering. That right there may be a multitude. Yeah, I'm saying that so you don't think a multitude is something that is always very obvious. It will continue to pressure you, but you must stop and identify what your multitude is. Your multitude is something that applies pressure. A difficult boss that just won't go away. You have even left an organization and you have started working in this brand new organization. And here you are, you haven't been up to 5 months, you haven't even worked here for up to a year, and there is this boss almost exhibiting symptoms that seem like what the last boss was exhibiting. And you are here again in this brand new company and you are having boss problems again. That is your multitude. It could be a sick child. It could be a spouse. It could be a spouse with some set of attitudes or habits that are particularly gratiating, that particularly are annoying to you. And so it's important that you look around and that you see that your multitude applies pressure on you. Your multitude comes to take. It leaves you deflated. It comes and it keeps taking and it keeps taking, but you must identify it. If you don't identify it, you are going to be in a rut. Your multitude will let you sleep. And you know what? Your multitude will eventually become disappointed because it comes to you with an expectation for you to feed them. Your multitude is hungry. Your multitude is an area, a part of life that needs its own solution from you. Don't leave your crowd hungry. Don't leave your crowd struggling. So let's look at about 2 or 3 things. I hope this video can take 2 or 3 things that we need to do in addressing our crowd, in feeding our crowd. And like I told you, this whole story is around Mark chapter 6. If you are interested, you want to look at the scripture because the place is packed. The place is packed. In fact, I have talked about this sometime in my former video. I may still talk about it, but right now I'm looking at Mark chapter 6 from verse 30 all the way to 42 or thereabout. Okay? The first thing you mustn't do with your crowd is to try and send them away. That's what the disciples did. I think that's a reflex action. Every time something comes that is inconvenient, anytime something comes that we just don't feel comfortable, that seems to want to take away from us, I think the first impulsive, reflexive reaction we give is to say, let it go away. Lord, make it stop. I don't want this again. I don't want to see this woman again. And today it can be a woman because you don't identify that this is your crowd, you think is the woman. But that is your crowd. That is your crowd. You need to take care of it. Do not send your crowd away. It's a reflexive thing to do. What we do normally in life is that anything that we don't find comfort. In fact, I've heard the saying, go where you are celebrated, right? Don't go where you are endured. Anything that is inconvenient, naturally, the tendency is to move away, right? Even if a plant is growing and something is attacking it, naturally the plant will find another place to go express itself. It tends to move away, but that's not what you do. Do not send your crowd away. Do not go away. That's what the disciples wanted to do. They were like, Lord, Master, send them away. And when the master wouldn't send them away, when Jesus said, give them something to eat, they say, okay, shall we go? Shall we go and get something from the market? Who wants to bet that if those disciples were allowed to go to the market, that they will not have come back? Me will come back when I'm tired. I actually came out to find some place to rest. This multitudes followed me from wherever to this place. And here we are. I'll go get you something to eat, but man, you may not see me again. And so the disciples wanted to get away from it or have them sent away. Okay, so if you're not going to do that, what then can you do? What should you do with your crowd? And this is actually the main meat of this discussion. What to do with your crowd is you need to talk to God about it. Once you have identified this source of pain, there's another place in scripture where Paul was saying, I prayed for God to take this pain away. Okay, and that didn't happen. 3 times he prayed, and 3 times God said, your strength is enough. So what you don't want to do is you do not want to send them away, but what you need to do, the actual thing to do is to go talk to God about it. Talk to God about it. Think out loud to God. Say, God, if you want it to go away, it's fine. It's okay to say, I want it to go away. But just before you send it away, tell God, I want this thing to stop. I want this sent away. Okay, let that discussion be with God. But when you come to God with this challenge, with this multitude, with this crowd problem, when that happens, you want to come to Him openly. You want to speak to Him, but you also want to hear Him. You don't want to say, oh, this is all in all and that is it. I'm not dealing with it. Of course, that's not a relationship. But when you come to Him, you are coming to express how you feel. And there is absolutely nothing. In fact, the best kind of relationship is the one where you are able to tell God, this wears me out. This tires me. This draws upon resources I don't think I am able to control right now. What do I do? I'm saying that because when you come to Him, He will say some things. And what He will say is very likely going to come in the form of instructions. It's not going to come as a self-reflection kind of thing where, you try to figure it out and answer it back. Most times, if you stay long enough talking to Him about something that seems persistent, you are going to very likely hear some directions on what to do. In this case, verse 37 is very funny. Okay, that's verse 38, where Jesus told them, how many loaves of bread do you have? Go and see. You know, I stayed and I played around about this go and see, and I have talked about it in a previous video where Jesus is saying go and see. You know, it sounds like the kind of, interactions I have regularly with my people and the one I have with my boss. Okay, when I think something cannot be done, sometimes I'm a bit astute about it because I have tried and hey, I have some experience. This is what I do. I'm the guy, on the floor. I'm the guy who has risen this out. So when I come to a thinking table, I already know that this is not the way. It seems like I already know everything. And so when people start saying, oh, this is what can be done, all I'm saying is why do we want to go this way? And sometimes, my boss will say something like, okay, let's go and try it out. And I'm like, try it out? It's not likely to work. Why are we going to waste time? And what I am getting from this place is that when we come to God with a problem, we must be willing to take that instruction back. That instruction is not a suggestion. It's a direct instruction. It's like, how many loaves of bread do you have? How much time do you have? Do you think you are willing, you are able to take care of this crowd? Do you think you are able to take care of this problem? Now, go and see. I almost feel like a turnaround, like go and see. Before I give you the opportunity to start saying all those rubbish that you think is the reason why it will not work, can you go and see? It's like he's saying, how many loaves of bread do you have? And before he gives them the opportunity to say, no, we don't have anything, say, go and see. Go and take inventory. And so when you come praying about this, you are coming to take instructions. And when you hear those instructions, don't stand around or don't engage the spirit in that argument. Sometimes you will win, but in that winning you have lost. What you need to do is to go and see. And you're going to see is an act of faith. Faith in the person who has asked you to go and see. So you are going excited even at what you could go and see, because now you're like, at thy word, I'm going to check again. At thy word, I'm going to cast my net again. So you are going, banking on the person who has said, go and see. That's an attitude. That's not a confidence in what you have. And when you are going to see, have it at the back of your mind that you are not coming back with nothing. And so you go and see and continue seeing until you find out how many loaves you have. And now, when you have gone to see, you are taking an inventory of all that you have, because the crowd is still waiting concerning this topic, concerning this problem, concerning this child that will just, not perform the way we want her to perform, concerning this friend whose problem seems to be my personal problem, concerning this boss, concerning this co-worker. What do I have? What do I have that I can give that can take care of this situation? Those are the questions you are asking. You are taking a complete inventory. And while you are doing that, you do not discountenance anything. Because you can come to a place looking for something and then you see something small and you say, oh, what is this? No, this is not what we're looking for. That's not the attitude with which you go to see. When you go to see, you have an eye that anything can be useful in the hands of the master. Remember, the issue it's not about you, and it's not about the item or what you find. It's not about 2 loaves of bread. It's about the person who has asked you to go and see. And so your faith is in that person. And so regardless of what you find, you pick it up with thanksgiving. You pick it up excitedly, because now someone has asked you to go and get what you have. So when you find something, you know that this is something. It can be an experience you had as a nanny in a previous life. Maybe you took care of a sister's or a cousin's child sometime in a previous life. It could be that you were a singer in your local church several years ago. There is something in there that the master can work with to turn this particular situation around and to take care of your crowd. It may be that at some time, you applied for an internship somewhere, and while you were making that application, you were asked to write an essay. And you did write that essay, but you were not taken. But that is something. That is something that the master can work with. That is something you should come back to him with excitement. What you are not permitted to come back with is nothing. You can't come back with empty hands. You can't come back and say, oh, but I looked and there was nothing, absolutely nothing. No. Not because he cannot work with zero, which is a different discussion entirely. But the problem here will be your attitude. Do you have a seeing eye? The problem here will be the state of your heart. The Bible is clear on people who don't have. The Bible says that people who don't have, even that which they think they have, it will be taken away from them. And so anytime you go and you come back empty-handed, there's some error. It means that you have denigrated not just what you have, but your eyes are not seeing. So that's where we have a problem with. Okay? But you can go and see. And when you see, when you find something, pick it up with excitement. Pick up that experience. Pick up that time that somebody made you read 2 books a month. That time you're working somewhere and the requirements were that you had to trek. That time that you had to teach Bible study somewhere. Pick it up with excitement. Don't think of it as much. Don't think of it as nothing. You just think about the person who has said, go and bring what you have. Go and see what you have. Go and bring. Your mind and your entire concentration throughout this exercise is on the person who has sent you, on the person who has asked you, go and bring it. Okay? It is pride, actually, to focus on what you found. Yeah, that's the definition of pride. Even exercising shame as a result of what you found, that is pride. Looking at what you found and said, oh, this is nothing. I mean, I have very little for you to work with. That focus on what you have or what you have found, that there is pride. Even though in your mind it is an exercise in shame or an exercise in actual pride, what we know as pride, by looking at it and say, oh, of course, this must be reasonable. So any which way you look at what you have found and you are happy or sad based on what you have, that right there is pride. Okay? So now that you have found what you think, God can work with, and again, it is anything, you need to now bring that to him. Bring that to him again in humility. Bring that to him in thanksgiving. Bring that to him in an exercise of worship. And bring it back to him in both hands. Because he's going to ask, what did you find? And you're going to say, well, I found an experience of a time, where I read all the 12 volumes of this law book. I said, okay. And he will say, okay, give it to me. That will be the next thing he will do. You want to know what he can do with that? The issue is not on what you find. The reason for thanksgiving is not on what you find. And that is why, regardless of what you find, you burst into thanksgiving. And that's the last part I'm going to do. Because when they gave it to him, what did he do? He gave thanks. And so you are giving thanks based on the strength of the Father. You are giving thanks based on the fact that you know who you are working with. I remember the story of Elijah when he prayed for rain and he sent his servant to go and look, right? To go and keep looking. And the servant came back and said he saw that feast, that feast-sized cloud. And because of whom he was praying to, he started making declarations and started making preparations. And so I make bold to say that the moment you find something, when he has asked you to go and look, the moment you find something, that right there is your token. That right there is your sign. The fact that you are in a position of heart, in a position of prayer, long enough to find something, sister, your crowd will be fed. You just don't worry about the rest. You just bring that back to him. Your crowd will be fed. And so that's the algorithm, or that's the stepwise logic, really, as to having to feed your crowd. The first thing is that you just take your eyes off trying to send them away or trying to run away from them. Okay, you just have your eyes fixed on the person you are working with. You need to go talk to him about this issue, about this challenge, about this thing, drawing on your resources that you think you don't have. You need to be able to take instructions. Those instructions, when you take them, the answer is yes, sir. It's not up for argument. It's not up for negotiation. You just go and you start burrowing into all that has happened in the entire years you have lived. There is bread somewhere. If there is a crowd, there is bread to feed them. If there is a multitude, you have bread somewhere. You have something that they need. That's why it's been chasing you around all these years. That is why it is the same you and it is the same repetition. That's your multitude crying for bread. That's your world waiting for the manifestation of you. Stop running. Go and look. And when you come, take your mind away from what you find and trust that this man has been able to do more with less, and your crowd will be fed. I think it's high time I asked you guys to subscribe to my channel. Adi, what do you think? Have a great day.